And we are live. I want to thank Gary at ABN Army Surplus for providing the place to do the broadcast tonight. We do come out every Saturday night here live at ABN Army Surplus. I want to thank our other sponsors, of course. The excuse me, I'm getting an echo here. I don't know why I am, but I am. Just a second.
It's not going out.
Audio check 1 2.
You sound clean.
Okay. All right. Once again, let me adjust the microphone. Maybe that'll help. Okay, again, I do want to thank our sponsors, ABN Army Surplus, Concealment Solutions, and I want to talk about them live because they did a real solid for me. Crusader Weaponry and NJ2AS. Also, Firearm Safety Institute. Gary is here tonight on the air with us again. So thanks to all our sponsors for making this happen. Touch that. Maybe that helps. Is that echo gone now? Yes. Echo's gone on my end, I think. So why don't we go ahead and do the intro, and then we'll go right into the interview. And then we'll, I mean, Jeff, you're welcome to stay for as long or as short as you want. But let's do the interview first. So if you want to leave, you can. Then we'll get into the news, and we'll do the DGUs. And at some point, Shelly is supposed to be stopping by tonight. We're going to be announcing our food drive that we're kicking off here in Sioux Falls. And we'll get that done whenever she's available. So. How about that?
There we go.
The beauty of non-live audio. Any order you want.
I'm just making sure I'm ready to record here. Audio check. Audio test 1 2. That's low.
How low can you go? Boom, 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 boom.
Audio test 1 2. That's a little better. And one more try. There we go. That works.
I can hear you now.
Okay, are we ready to do this open?
Yes.
Okay. All right, gonna fire it off here. Coming back in 5.
An armed society is a polite society. Welcome to the Polite Society podcast, where we support and report on civilian self-defense.
Hi, and welcome to Polite Society.
I want Taco Bell. So freaking bad.
I forgot that was in there.
Take 2.
Oh.
Okay, I want Taco Bell so freaking bad. Let's try this one instead.
Or you could just cut it out later. I don't care.
Leave the Taco Bell in there.
An armed society is a polite society, and this is the Polite Society podcast, where we support and report on civilian self-defense.
Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society podcast, recorded live on Saturday, July 19th, 2014. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rob Morse, and we have an interview with Jeff Knox, director of the Firearms Coalition.
I'm Gary Doherty, and we have our weekly stories of defensive gun uses.
And I'm Gary Harpster. We have our usual gun news.
So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 253 of the Polite Society Podcast starts right now. Hey, and welcome back. This is our personal news segment. No, I wasn't going to do that. Stop. Okay, that's a good place to save, and we'll go into the interview. Sorry for our live viewer.
Oh,
Is there really only one viewer?
I only see one viewer on YouTube right now.
Oh, man.
well,
Go
it's,
get your friends.
it's probably me.
Could be. Could be Susan, too.
Shelly
you
was
go.
supposed to be viewing tonight, too. Where is she? I'm hurt. My feelings are hurt now. I'm taking it personal.
All right. Rob, you want to bring us in for the interview?
Yes. 5. Hi, and welcome back. In this episode, we have Jeff Knox, director of the Firearms Coalition. He's going to talk about universal background checks, a little extension on the interview we had earlier with Russell Smith, which he called red stripe, green stripe. This idea has been around before. It may have changed names. It may have morphed slightly. Jeff, you've seen the arguments over our version of universal background checks. What's your take on it?
Well, it's always good to be with you, Rob. Thanks for having me back on the show. I've looked at this very, very carefully for a long time. Dad, years ago, talked about this kind of thing and looked into it. And we debated it back and forth and looked at the arguments and the problems. And actually, Russell's version, the big problem that jumps out is one of privacy, because as soon as you get a label on the driver's license that says that you're ineligible to purchase a firearm, that and that label is only on people who are specifically prohibited, then that becomes a real problem, and the ACLU would sue it out of existence. It's an interesting idea. Of course, the idea is, as Russell said, if everybody's special, no one's special. So rather than specifically targeting people who wish to exercise their Second Amendment rights and purchase a firearm by doing a background check and doing government paperwork when they exercise that right, that instead to do the background check and preparatory stuff in advance when you get your driver's license, and then to somehow code it on the driver's license so that when you choose to exercise your right, if you choose to exercise your right, you simply walk into the store, show them your driver's license, and purchase the firearm. So it seems very simple and straightforward, but there's quite a bit of complexity to it.
Let me ask a question, because in California, with our large immigrant population, at one point they had proposed driver's licenses that said, hi, here's an identification, you can use it to drive, we can use it to require insurance, but it doesn't show that you're a citizen. And we had a similar concern here. Oh, this stigmatizes someone that says they're not a citizen. Is that the similar concern you would expect?
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that we've seen the privacy rights issue come up, and somehow the issue of privacy rights, which aren't enumerated in the Constitution, are more important than the Second Amendment, which is enumerated in the Constitution. And so you get these groups like ACLU strongly defending privacy rights and completely ignoring firearms rights. But yeah, any time you look at this, and of course there's the other argument from guys on our side that say, why should I be submitted to government scrutiny to begin with? Do I want that government scrutiny to be in the hands of those people down at the Motor Vehicle Division? Things that are valid concerns, but one of the ways to look at it, and I have to honestly tell you, Rob, that while I have looked at this a lot and thought about it a lot for a couple of decades, I'm not convinced that it's the best route to go, and I really would like to see a vigorous debate. There's been a lot of discussion on my Facebook page, Firearms Coalition Facebook page, but it's just kind of batting it back and forth, and we're not getting to answers and really getting to solutions. We're getting a lot more smart aleck remarks than we are getting solutions.
Well, yeah, welcome to Cal Guns and Facebook. Jeff, there is one thing, a different perspective, and I think this is something the critics have to answer. Your proposal says here are pre-screened individuals, pre-carded, pre-certified good guys. There's a disadvantage to that. Granted, there are a number of them. What the opponents then have to do is justify the present status quo, because the choice isn't between perfection and the red stripe, green stripe proposal. It's between the status quo and the red stripe, green stripe proposal.
Right.
So right now, it's okay that gun owners are evaluated for every purchase, that their purchases are delayed, that they need to get ID cards to buy ammunition, they need to submit a request to buy a firearm to their local police department, which can take as much as 3 months to do it. That's okay with them. But a pre-screening red stripe, green stripe, that isn't perfect enough.
Well, and that's the thing, is that they aren't okay with the way it is, but they're not okay with making it better. They want to make it perfect. And so you get the perfect being the enemy of the better, and that's where it is. Go
ahead.
Well, my idea on this pre-screening concept, I think the red stripe, green stripe really can't work. I think the only way that it's feasible that it could work, something like this, would be to have it, the default is you get the background check and you get a little green G in the corner of your driver's license about the size of a hole punch, and that you can opt out if you choose not to get the little green G in the corner. That way, Barbara Boxer and Dianne Feinstein and Chuck Schumer and Mike Bloomberg can say, no, I don't want a little green G in the corner of my driver's license, and convicted felons and other prohibited classes don't get a choice. They don't get a little green G. But as long as there are people with a blank spot there who are not prohibited persons, then it should be okay. If it marks that you are a prohibited person with such as a red stripe, then that would be a violation of people's privacy rights, and it would be flagging them as someone who has something nefarious in their background.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to touch on that, because that is my major issue with that proposal. That is that somebody, especially a nonviolent felon, let's say a 19-year-old single mother that bounced a check to pay for rent. Well, in South Dakota, you only have to have a $250 check bounce for it to be a felony. Mm-hmm. And that would mark her for the rest of her life as not being able to purchase a firearm. And then beyond that is when she goes to apply for a job, she's going to have that red stripe that says, well, she can't own a firearm. Well, if you know somebody can't own a firearm, are you going to hire them even to work the counter at a McDonald's, or are you going to hire them to drive your taxi cab? You know?
Right, and that's why I strongly say if this were to work, the only way that it could would be if it was an opt-out, and that people with the little green G, good guys might have a green G or might not, and it's their choice. But that it's not mandatory or obligatory, and the missing green G doesn't suggest that they're not qualified to get a gun, except when they go and try and buy one. And with that, you would have to keep the NICS system at least available for people who don't have a green G and decide to change their mind, or have a vicious spouse who decided to take a hole punch to their driver's license or something of that nature, you know.
We won't even wait for the lawyers to go at it. I'm just going to attack you with a hole punch right now.
There you go.
Well, the other thing I'd like to really stress here is that I would not want to see this go through nationally. If individual states would want to do this, I guess I don't have a problem with it. But our current system, I believe federally, it takes them, last time I went to go buy a gun, it took them 10 minutes to get me approved. I would rather stick with, if California wants to do it and it's an improvement for California, hey, California, go for it. I don't want it forced on everybody.
Right, and here's the other thing about it is the weight of a program like this. Because right now states are tending to stretch out the length of time between you having to go get a new driver's license. I believe it's 12 years here in Arizona now.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So, and the reason they're doing that is so that they can reduce the volume that they're dealing with on a daily basis at the DMV. To add background checks, criminal background checks, into the DMV process as the default would really complicate and load that up, and would be an expense to the states. So it couldn't be done at the federal level automatically. It would have to be done by the states individually, but it would also be in need of federal enabling legislation that would say, here's the general guidelines for this program, and if your state adopts these general guidelines, then your driver's license would be a pass on the NICS check, just as your concealed carry permit or license might be now, and other states that are following these same guidelines would have to recognize it the same as they recognize your driver's license. So it would be a complex thing to get it nationwide, and it would be a fight all the way along. And again, as I say, it would be expensive and cumbersome upon the states to build this in, and that leads to the question of how are we going to pay for it, and I have no idea.
I want to take a different point of view, but before I do, Gary, do you have any comment?
Not yet. I'm listening. I disagree with Paul. I'd rather see it national, so I don't have to sit here in Illinois and be jealous of Indiana and Texas, who have better gun laws than I do. But other than that, no.
I have my pros and my cons to it. I'm like the other Gary, sitting and listening. So just kind of keep going. I'm formulating my opinions, but I'm guessing that a fight's coming before.
And no, you guys, I think the obvious really is obvious in this case, that Illinois will be one of the last to adopt it. So will Hawaii, California, Connecticut, New York, Maryland, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the place we want to fight that fight? I think it is. I think this is a tremendous step toward national reciprocity. It also lets, well, that's what I think. It also lets, a gun owner from South Dakota. Oh, you happen to be in Minnesota? Why is it you can or can't buy a gun? Oh, we can't do the background check on you. Yes, you can. Right here. Do I need to wear it on my chest? See, it's right on my driver's license. That at the national level, we might be able to stop some of the local bigotry. I can understand why someone who lives in a free state finds that less interesting.
Right. And the other thing is that really bugs me is the city of Chicago just had to write $1.5 million check for a lawsuit of taxpayer money fighting where the politicians are trying to keep Second Amendment rights away from people. We've got other lawsuits that are either completed or pending that's going to cost taxpayers money. And I don't understand why those types of things aren't just handled at the federal level instead of all this money being wasted when, frankly, this state can't afford it.
Now, what do you mean by handled at the federal level? What would be handled at the federal level, Gary?
Well, this topic, particularly the driver's license issue, but I'm talking about Moore versus Madigan that got us a concealed carry permit was fought using my tax dollars. I don't want my tax dollars used fighting.
That's because you've hired the wrong guys, Gary. You've hired the wrong guys. Fire them, and you can solve that problem.
If it was up to me, I would agree with you.
Well, Gary, and I'm in the same boat that you are.
But I don't own the world yet, so
Working on
I
it, all right.
don't have that kind of control to fire them.
Work on that, Gary. Work on that. All right.
Well,
We do have to. We're running a little bit late. We do have to step off to break, but I would like to continue the conversation. So we'll be right back right after this.
am I crazy, or does that make sense?
I understand. I think I understand your motivation. You're in a state where the politicians work for their interest rather than yours.
Hang on. Paul's in a break, and I'm
Well, I
guessing
understand.
you are going to say something interesting.
Could happen.
Yeah. So
I already said it. I'm just revisiting. That's up because
Yeah, okay.
I've been
Totally.
thinking about this a lot, and I don't know who to talk to ask the question.
Well, toss it out here, even if we don't have answers. Because if you're thinking it, I bet our listeners are too.
You can ask me. I'll
Real
make
quick,
something up.
Mr. Fats on YouTube had a couple comments. Said, "Hello, Rob. How was your vacation?" And also said, "Come on, Paul. Let us get it together." I am trying, Mr. Fats. I really am.
Really, it said that on YouTube? Oh, there he is. Okay. For some reason, it wasn't showing me his questions.
Those don't seem to. I've checked those before, Robin. They don't seem to show up
They don't add up
quickly to everybody. I don't know what the deal is.
Slow ping.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I finally had that save. So, Gary, you want to Gary Doherty? You want to go ahead and bring us back? And you can launch right into your concern there.
Sure.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Polite Society podcast. We're talking with Jeff Knox about a new system to address purchasing guns and being pre-approved for gun purchases. Jeff, we talked about it going into the break, and just if you could explain to me more why this wouldn't work on a federal level, so that there is no fighting with the states. Why don't we have this? How come? I mean, there's just a lot of politicians that are fighting with my money in lawsuits against the Second Amendment with my money, and why can't some of this stuff step to the federal level so we don't have this problem?
Well, there's a couple of issues, and it possibly could, but it would have to be. The issue is funding. If the feds just said this is what you've got to do from now on, that would be an unfunded mandate and would be ruled unconstitutional. The two options for doing it would be for us to pass federal legislation that gave standardized outline of the program and how it would have to be implemented in the states, and possibly create a fund to assist the states in meeting that, but it would probably need to be created in the states themselves or adopted state by state. The other direction to go with that would be if it was fully funded by the federal government, that the feds stepped up, that we passed legislation that included appropriation that said we're going to pay for all of this, and I frankly don't see that as feasible or possible. I can see them providing the NICS service and paying for that, but it gets more and more complicated the more you look at the details of trying to implement a program, a pre-screening program that just automatically labels you as a good guy, and they don't have to investigate you again every single time you walk into a gun store.
Jeff, I'm going to barge in. Gary, push me out of the way if you were going to ask. Jeff, I find that hard to believe because my driver's license is, figures out if I have a bunch of DUIs on it. My passport knows if I've, committed some crimes. Why is this much harder than those?
It really isn't much harder than those, but it is harder. One of the big issues, as I brought up earlier, is the duration. There's no way that anyone is going to accept when I say anyone, I mean Dianne Feinstein, accept a policy that would require a background check anything less than every 5 years. And as I say, a lot of states have moved away from 5 years on driver's licenses and are out to 10 or 12 years that a license lasts, and they would have to back up to a 5-year plan, which is going to cost them a lot of money just with that.
Well, I don't see why that's so, in the sense that if I go commit 3 DUIs, my license gets pulled and they don't wait 12 years to do it.
No, it's not a matter of waiting 12 years to do it. It's a matter of how frequently you have to go and renew it. And if you're having to go in every 5 years instead of every 10 years, that's doubling the workload on the DMV. Have you walked into a DMV in the last 5 years? They're crazy there.
I understand your claim, but I'm pointing out that it's done once, and then the only reason it's changed is if,
there you go. You're talking about an automatic review, and unless something changes. And while I agree with you that the system is in place to catch if you become non-compliant, if you are no longer a good guy, somewhere within that 10 or 12 years that it can catch it and they can go.
Isn't that what we do with my driver's license right now?
Yes, it is, and that's what they do with concealed carry permits in Indiana right now, the lifetime. But Indiana had to come up with, when they created their lifetime version, they also had to create a 5-year version that you could opt for, specifically so you could meet the ATF requirement that you be re-inspected every 5 years at a minimum.
Okay.
So can it work? I don't know. Can we talk about it? Can we get real detailed discussion about the pros and the cons, the pros at the state level and at the national level, the cons at the state level and the national level? Where do we run into hurdles? Where do we run into problems? Is this whole concept a violation of the Constitution and to be rejected? I mean, there are people who refuse to get driver's licenses. Are they right? Are they wrong? Is that are we worried about them? It's a very complex thing, and my issue with it is I don't think that there's been a whole lot of rational, thoughtful, careful evaluation and discussion of this idea, and I'd like to see more of that.
So
Sure.
who's going to ask Alan Gottlieb to have you talk on it at GRPC?
Oh, feel free to ask him. He's not going to let me.
I would like to. I'm sitting here thinking, and I can feel the emails coming already. I really can. The now multiple viewers, thank goodness that we have on YouTube, are already typing away, and I would like to say that my first best option is for every state to follow the Constitution and the Second Amendment, which reads that your rights shall not be infringed, and that anybody, and I don't care who you are, if you are safe enough to be out of prison, you ought to be able to walk into your gun store and buy whatever you want to buy.
Amen, brother.
From a 10/22 all the way up to a shoulder-fired Stinger missile.
Well, that makes sense in the for the reason that the prohibition we pretend to live with right now is wildly ineffective.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And Stinger missiles are really, really expensive.
Yeah, but by the way, the training budget on that, I want to watch. You got to clear that with Susan.
And Jeff, I mean, I don't know if you remember, but you were on my show back when it was Politics and Guns, quite a while ago, and we talked about this. And my opinion then and still is, if the government can own it, I ought to be able to own it. So I know you draw your line at Stinger missile, but I believe you ought to be able to own an F-22 Raptor if you can write the check.
No, and realistically, and I don't really draw a line there. Let's clarify. The easy line to draw for those who say, "What about nuclear weapons or use of blah, blah," and the easy line to draw there is that when you're talking militia, you're talking what the guys in the trenches are lugging around, and realistically, right now, I can go out and buy a Sherman tank if I want to, and I can buy ammunition for the main gun on the Sherman tank, and that's perfectly legal, and I have absolutely no problem with that. I can't afford a Sherman tank or the ammunition, but I have no problem with it being legal and constitutional. Absolutely.
Well, I want to go. I mean, the Sherman tank is what now? 70-year-old technology.
All right.
But I mean, what I'm trying to get again, I'm just trying to head off emails right now. My personal belief is anything the government has access to, we ought to have access to, and honestly, you could count on your hands. Probably only one of them people that could afford to own things like aircraft carriers or like real operational aircraft. So I think we have to worry about that. But anyway,
no, and realistically, if you want to go out and build your Raptor, you can. There's no law against it. It's just the government only sells them to a very few people. They don't even sell them to foreign governments. But I don't know. That's
where I'm going with that more as an analogy to the more of the Class 3 stuff. You cannot build a brand new fully auto. It is illegal.
You can't legally do that. You can't legally do that. Although you can easily do it with rudimentary machining skills. I built my first machine gun when I was 16, I think. In high school shop class. I immediately chopped it up into little bitty pieces, but I function checked it. It was going to work. So it's easier to build than a single shot in some ways.
If you put multiple thousands of rounds through a 10/22 and never clean it, it will eventually turn itself into full auto. I've been there, done that, but
You are lazy. My gosh.
There you go.
Anything else we want to talk about? And I know I threw us far afield on that one, but what else should we be talking about?
Well, I do want to raise the issue, or at least mention that if folks want to discuss this, we've got a discussion running on Facebook, on the Firearms Coalition page on Facebook. If you type in Firearms Coalition, you'll find us on Facebook. You can find our website at firearmscoalition.org, firearmscoalition.org. And I write regular columns for WorldNet Daily and for Shotgun News and a couple of other publications. And, you know, we throw out a lot of ideas. And I guess that one of the things we're going to need to do with this idea is really flesh it out and detail it and then put it out there and let people pick at the details as we go along. But as it is right now, there's lots of repetition and re-explaining and answering questions that have already been answered 1,000 times. I'd like to see this discussion move forward. So we'll try and facilitate that as we go along.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to extend the offer. We need to run to break here again, but I'd like to extend the offer. If you want to hang out for the rest of the show, we'd sure love to have you.
Well, I'm here. We'll see how long I can last.
All right. Well, hang on, everybody. Then we'll be right back right after this. Awesome. 2 very damn good segments.
Oh, good.
Mr. Fats isn't saying anything else to us. All right. Back to the news.
I want to stick Shelley in here.
Oh, we got to do personal news, don't we?
Yeah, we got to do personal news yet, and I want to interview Shelley here quick. This shouldn't take long.
Okay.
I want to talk to her about we're going to be kicking off 2 weeks from today. We're kicking off a Second Amendment food drive, and we're going to culminate that with on August 23rd. There's a family range day and potluck, and we're going to culminate it on that day. And I want to talk to her about that a little bit.
Is she jumping into a chair now?
If I can get untangled.
All right, and when you can, give me a mic check.
Mic check.
Okay. How's that coming out to you guys out there?
Little quiet?
Yeah.
I've never been accused of being quiet.
What's it like having somebody with that kind of authority over your voice?
All right, give me a 5 count, Shelley.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, that is.
Okay. Okay, this shouldn't take very long. And basically, Shelley, I just want to cover the food drive, and wish we'd have talked to Gary about this for a second before we were able. But anyway, we'll just wing it. I don't expect it to take more than 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay.
And anybody can jump in. Feel free. I'll bring us back in 5. Hey, and welcome back. We're with Shelley Sorensen. Shelley is, well, she's working with me at the Great Plains Second Amendment Society, and we're going to be doing something really exciting coming up here in a couple weeks. We just kind of been nailing this down. Shelley and Jesse have been really helping me out with this, and Shelley, I want to talk to you because you guys have been doing the legwork on this. We've got a food drive coming up. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on?
All right, so August 9th, we're going to set up some bins at a few different stores around Sioux Falls. We have one in Brandon as well, the Sunshine in Brandon, Sunshine in Sioux Falls, Fairway, Oh, I can't even remember them all of a sudden.
ABN here
Yes,
is going to be.
ABN here. Yes, that's correct. But what we're going to do is we're going to set those bins up, and you can bring your food donations, and we'll go to the local food pantry. It's going to go until the 23rd, which will kick off our family fun day at the range.
Very cool. One thing I was really charged up, and you suggested this, and it really charged me up, is we're often seen as a group as we're concerned about us and us alone.
Mm-hmm.
And this allows the Second Amendment community to get involved in helping the community in general. And I think it puts us in a positive light.
I do too, because the media makes us look so horrible, and we're human too. I have children. You know, there might be some day that I'm going to need something, and I would hope somebody would help me, and it brings the humanity back to our name.
Sure. So this is going to be kicking off on August the 9th. That's right? I've got that right?
Correct.
And now I know Gary here at the store, and this has not been finalized, so if it changes, I apologize. But here at ABN, Gary is offering, if you were to donate here at ABN, he's offering a discount, and I don't know the exact amount, but I do know he is offering a discount to store merchandise if you donate here at the store. Have we had any response? We don't. The ABN is the only gun store type place we have for this, right? The rest are grocery store kind of things.
Correct.
So, and I know we're going to have. Now let's talk a little bit about that family. Now this is something I'd never seen before. It's a family range day and potluck.
Right. Well, some of the other ones that I had seen, the people who put it on bring the food, and we were thinking, that's going to get kind of expensive, since everything is out of pocket for us. We thought, why don't we all just bring something? Bring us together as a community more, bring us together to feel like a family, almost kind of like a family reunion. We're all extended family, we're just not related.
Sure. Sure. So then that's going to be on the 23rd.
Correct, 23rd in Beresford. Kind of going over today, we don't really have an end time. It's going to be kind of more like when you run out of ammo or when you get sick of talking to each other.
Sure. Well, I will have to leave early because that day we do the show here. So.
Right.
But I'm looking forward to that as well. Do anybody else have any questions? Anything you want to bring up?
That sounds like a wonderful idea. Good on you.
And I got my new gun. I get to shoot, so that's even more exciting.
You did pick up a new gun.
Yes, I did.
Since the last time you were on the show. Tell everybody what you got.
I got a Smith & Wesson M&P 9mm shield.
Awesome. Now, did you get the one? Does yours have a thumb safety?
Yes.
Okay. They just came out with a version that doesn't.
Yeah. No, I have the one with the safety.
And you've taken that out. How's that shoot?
So much better. I mean, I'm still not up on the bullseye yet, but my grouping is great, a lot better than it was, and I just gotta dial it up. So it's so much more comfortable.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I want to thank you for joining us, and we'll have you back probably in about the middle of the food drive. Let us know how it's going.
All right, sounds good.
Shelley Sorensen, everybody, with the Great Plains Second Amendment Society, and we'll be right back right after this.
I didn't know if you'd seen it, so I brought it.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, of course.
I want to do an ammo drive.
I'd be for that.
Yeah, put bins around in stores and ask them to throw ammo in it for me. For needy. I'm needy. I need ammo. I think that would be a really great thing.
Jeff, ammo manufacturers do that for things like Boy Scout days and I just don't know that you're cute enough to qualify any longer.
Yeah. I've managed to score a little bit of free ammo, but I don't have my name in the big books yet, so I don't score much free ammo. Not nearly enough. Not nearly enough.
How much do I score? Never enough.
That's right. That's right. That's
I do like
I do too. Brian bought a Mosin.
a what?
A Mosin.
They just sent me some what do they call it? It's some sort of it's a solid copper bullet that they drilled a big hole down the middle of it and left a plate on the bottom, and it breaks into about 5 pieces, and then the bottom tumbles on through. Looks really impressive in gelatin. I'm going to have to see how it works in the car and my Colt, because they sent me 380 and 45. But
I've got your email address.
And I'm wondering, will it?
Not to mention if somebody wanted to email.
Yeah, who wants to volunteer their breastbone to see if it penetrates?
Do you know that the first murder in Kennesaw, Georgia, that's how it came about? After they passed their law, it was
Really?
years before they had a murder in Kennesaw, Georgia, and it was 2 drunk guys in a motel. The one was bodybuilder
Trying
type.
on a
No, he was-
bulletproof vest.
No, he was a bodybuilder type, and the other guy had a little 25 auto, and they made a bet that the 25 auto wouldn't penetrate his pectoral muscle, and they tested it, and he died.
Wow.
And there you go. But to my knowledge, that was the first murder in Kennesaw, Georgia after they passed their law, and it was about 10, 12 years after they had passed their everybody should have a gun unless they don't want one.
Proving that enough testosterone really does make you think you're bulletproof.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, you would have to imagine there was some alcohol involved in that too.
Yeah, and I have heard that testosterone is worse than alcohol as far as bad judgment. That you mix testosterone and alcohol together, and yeah, you got a problem there. But he doesn't have any problems anymore, though. The dead guy, the guy who shot him, he had a problem. Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and get into the personal news segment, and then we'll because we're 45 minutes into the show already. So, all right, I'll go ahead and bring us back. Coming back in 5. Hey, and welcome back. This is our personal news segment, and as usual, I'm going to start by just reading off the faces on the bottom of my screen. And first up on the very far left, I have Gary Doherty. Gary's joining us again this week. Gary, what's been up with you the last week?
Well, in my last class, I had a left-handed student who did not have a holster. Every student I've had before who was left-handed had their own holster, and I never thought to have one of those available for my students, so I bought one for my personal and class training. And my one student, like I said, happened to be a friend of mine, was coming to my class, and as a lefty, he did an awesome job with a right-handed holster before I had this, but I am now retraining him left-handed. So
Okay.
Oops.
So he just shot right-handed for most of the class then, or?
There's no drawing from the holster for the shooting requirement, but there is 3 hours of dry fire practice and gun handling practice that we do, and I take about an hour and a half of that with holster training because it's something that a lot of people are not familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, he's a friend of mine, didn't give me too much grief, and did a really excellent job right-handed. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Well, then next on my little row of faces on the bottom here is Gary Harpster. Gary, what's been up with you this past week?
Well, let's see. More parades and more parades and more parades. We went to the wonderful town of Baltic, South Dakota.
I was there this morning.
And how come we didn't see each other?
I was in slot number 16. I was walking with the Renaissance people.
I was in slot number 7. I have to tell you, that was the longest parade for the shortest distance and the fewest people I've ever done.
I'm telling you.
Three blocks worth of people, and the parade still took a half an hour from start to finish, and there was only 3 blocks worth of people. God bless their souls, are very nice people.
Yes.
But that was the smallest parade for the longest parade I have ever been in.
Our group of people, of course, being representatives of the Renaissance Association, we're on foot. They didn't have any motorized vehicles back in the 1500s, so we're on foot, and the rest of the parade isn't. and up ahead of us about 3 or 4 slots is Miss South Dakota in her convertible. Well, it was her convertible, and her driver did not know how to start her convertible.
Oh, no.
So the rest of the parade is going and going and going, and she's not going. Of course, she then gets out of the back, gets in the front, starts it for the guy, climbs back in the back, he gets in, and they gun it and go around the corner. Well, the people in front of them are in a motorized float. They gun it, go around the corner, gun it, go around the corner. And then there's us. And I'm an old fat trucker. And I'm on my feet in boots that are not exactly made for walking. So it was a 3-block sprint in very uncomfortable boots for me.
Yeah, and 3 blocks was the entire length of the parade.
Oh, it was 3 blocks from us to get to the start of the parade.
Start of the parade, yeah.
And then it was a 3-block saunter down the rest of it.
Down the rest of it.
Get a horse.
The other big thing is actually yeah, there were horses there too. Yeah, and a baby mule. That was cute.
Yeah, that little mule was cute.
That little mule was cute. But I did, next, a week from today, we have the gun classes. And I wanted to remind everybody that we do have the United States Concealed Carry Association trainer coming here to ABN and also NRA. I believe she's handgun trained. And then with the lady, there must be a ladies association associated with that, something like that. I'm not sure about. I'm sure one of our listeners is. But nonetheless, there will be a ladies gun class next Saturday morning here at ABN. You can still sign up for it. And a concealed carry class in the afternoon. But I think the ladies thing is the important one to mention, because I know we have a lot of regional listeners, Iowa, North, South Dakota, Minnesota, that if you've ever thought you might just like to talk with other gals who also like to shoot, or you don't know much about it, you might be more comfortable with a lady instructor and talking with other gals rather than being in a room full of testosterone, as an example. Next Saturday morning, 8 o'clock here at ABN. We'll be opening up early, and we invite you all to come on down. There is a fee for it. It's not very much. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly what it is. The instructors are coming from Rapid. So it should be a fun-filled, packed day. Of course, you could stay, come back later in the evening. We're going to grill. And, of course, Paul and I will be here in the shop along with Rob and many others in the Polite Society podcast. So next Saturday is going to be a big day down here. We invite you all that are close enough to come join us. That's it for my personal news.
Okay. Next to my row of faces down here, I have Rob. Rob, what have you been up to, man?
I'm back with you. I had a great trip to the East Coast, got to see my daughter. The only loud exercise I've I shot IDPA. I think we talked about that. Go ahead.
You were in the land of freedom. You escaped California for however brief a period, and you didn't throw any rounds downrange?
Nope. Different houses, different rules. Had a great time, though. I ended up at a lot of parties. So I was at a party where a bunch of people were watching the World Cup. That's about soccer, they tell me. So I was in the kitchen having a drink and talking about concealed carry with people.
Football.
Yeah, I ignored football, talked concealed carry, and did some dry practice.
Well, and then joining us, hanging over from the interview, which listeners to the podcast will actually hear in just a few minutes. But Jeff Knox is with us. Jeff, anything been going on with you lately that you'd like to let the listeners know about?
One thing I'd like to touch on is something really unique that's been happening in USA Today of late, and that is the First Responders Report has been appearing about weekly in USA Today in the Washington, D.C. region, and it is a report of people who have used firearms successfully to save themselves and others. It's being published in USA Today as a paid advertorial, and it's being done without any kind of funding or support from any of the major rights organizations, NRA, GOA, Second Amendment. None of them have been involved in this, more than possibly a little bit of advisory capacity. I'm pleased to say, proud to say, that I and the Firearms Coalition have been kind of involved in this with Alan Corwin at gunlaws.com, is the guy who put it all together. And it's I think it's kind of neat. I like to see those stories out in front of the public in the general press, not just in the gun press. And I think it's a good thing. And if funding can be worked out, Alan says that it's going to continue.
Yeah, we talked about that. I think it was last week on the show. Could have been the week before that, but no, I think it was last week. Yeah, I think that's just fantastic what Alan's been doing. I was wondering at the time, because I know he took the city of Phoenix, at least the transportation department of the city of Phoenix, to court and won his suit there. And I was wondering if maybe if there was a monetary return, if that might have helped pay for the first run of ads, which I thought would have been rather how do you put this, poetic justice.
Yeah, wouldn't that have been nice? It is not. It was not. Unfortunately, the only thing that came out of the Train Me Arizona ad campaign lawsuit was that they had to put the billboards back up at the bus stops, and that's a good thing. We're happy to see that Gun Save Lives heart around Arizona and around the Phoenix area, and Alan does a lot of good work. So I would like to encourage all of the listeners to stop by gunlaws.com and buy a book or two for yourself, for other people that need an education. He's got hundreds, thousands of titles there of great books at reasonable prices, and that helps to fund the work that Alan does. And he's one of these guys. He's a capitalist. He doesn't take donations. He doesn't take contributions. He sells books. And so go buy a book, folks.
One that I would like to recommend that I've read of Alan's, that I love this book, and it's got probably the best title that I've ever heard of in any book anywhere, and that's the book After You Shoot. The gun's hot, the perp's not, now what?
Absolutely, great book.
I love that book, and so yeah, go buy that book. It'll help him continue doing what he's doing.
Well, I want to disagree with you, Paul, because Alan and I are on kind of the volume purchase plan. How about his book, Your First Gun?
Absolutely.
It's very inexpensive. It's designed for the guy at the office, which is where I keep giving them away, who goes, I was thinking about getting a gun, but I don't really know. After you take them shooting, you hand them Alan's book.
That's a great idea, Rob. Absolutely great idea. It's a good book.
All right, well, just one person left here, and that would be me. I got a couple things I want to talk about. I wasn't able to talk about this on last weekend's show. Either one of them had happened, one of them hadn't yet, but I forgot to cover one of them and everything that happened. But I went out. My wife and I have been doing some on Sundays. We're not going to this coming Sunday, but we've got into a habit of we go out to eat with friends about lunchtime, maybe a late lunch, because several of our friends attend church and asked us to go later so they could do it with us. So we'll do lunch, and then we'll go to one of the attractions around Sioux Falls, maybe a museum or the zoo or something like this. Well, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before that, we decided to go to a local museum, the Pettigrew Museum, and it was a really warm day. It was in the high 80s in the morning when we started going out, and I just, I'm not going to take my gun off, but it is just too darn hot to wear this vest. I'm open carrying today, and I did. It's legal where I'm at. The museum, as part of the city of Sioux Falls, and since it's the city of Sioux Falls controlled, there's a state law that says no city buildings can be gun-free zones. I knew I was allowed to carry in this museum. Well, I walk in there.
Prohibited from carrying. They
Right.
can't allow a right.
Right, exactly. Yes, I misspoke. They cannot prohibit me from carrying. I go in and we ask when the tours of the museum starts, and we're wandering around looking at some of the displays that are open to the public, that don't include the tour. And the gentleman comes up to me and goes, "Excuse me, sir, are you carrying?" I said, "Why, yes, I am." And it was open. I mean, I was not concealing it.
Kind of like he asked, "Are you wearing clothes?"
Exactly. So he goes, "Well, thank you." And it about floored me because the tone he said, "Excuse me, sir, are you carrying?" I was expecting him to, ask me to leave, and I was going to have, and then I was in my mind formulating, well, actually, you can't tell me to do that. I'll be happy to leave, but tell him why he can't do what he was doing just before I voluntarily left. But he thanked me for carrying and invited me to a shoot that I couldn't go to because I had other obligations here that was going to be happening yesterday and last evening, and I could not go. But I was floored because it turns out this guy is really involved in the shooting sports down in the Wagner, South Dakota area, which is about 100 miles from here. So that, and then the one that's not quite so positive, I have a problem. My son had his birthday party. He is mid-20s. I'm not going to give his exact age away because that would come close to giving my age away. But had a friend of his who is very active in the gun rights area and is a little bit of an in-your-face kind of a person, kind of like the Open Carry Texas people are. He was there, and I was cordial, and my wife was cordial, and he knows me and came up to me and was really, really glad to see me and was talking about all this. He says, "Oh, by the way, you're not going to believe this. I'm going to be getting some guns for free." I said, "Oh, really? How's that?" "Well, I was doing I work at this place, and we do emergency cleanups, and this person committed suicide, and their family doesn't want their guns." I almost hit him. This is my personal opinion. Were I ever in that situation, I would turn those particular firearms over to the police, and they would be destroyed. I can't imagine something like that. I wouldn't want those firearms, and I'm not going to release this person. I'm through conversations previous that he knows who I am. He knows about the show, but I don't believe he listens. And if it gets back to him, it gets back to him. But it's just an extremely low-class thing to do, and I hope none of our listeners would be that way. So that's what's going on with me. Not a lot else. Let's do this. We got a lot of news because we didn't have a midweek show. Let's step off to break, and then when we come back, we've got a bunch of news and a bunch of good DGUs this week. So hang on, everybody. Right back right after this. Shelly, you know who I'm talking about, don't you?
I'm going to turn on the fan. I'll be right back.
Are you 53?
Who, what?
Are you 53?
Am I 53? No.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm...
That's okay.
Back at you.
There's a 61 in your Twitter number, so I didn't know if Twitter does that based on your birthday or something.
Oh no, Twitter. The 15561 used to be my truck number.
Oh. I like mysteries.
I had a guy ask me how old I was last night, and I said 54, and
And
He's
let's
stopped
talk.
talking
Let's do a
to me.
conference call or something again next weekend, just to make sure all our ducks in a row.
Did you see the picture of the dog getting involved?
Yes, I
Is that
did.
not cute?
That was the cutest
He
damn
wanted to be
thing.
in on it too. You see that? That's what I think. His face was like right at the phone. He was so intent.
Okay.
Ooh. Try talking
Blow out
again,
the
Paul.
microphone.
If Gary Harpster isn't here, I'll take his story. I'll just jump in. But we're really running along into this, so yeah, no new comments on YouTube. So I got the first story. I'll bring us back. And is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Coming back in 5. Hey, and welcome back to our news segment. As I said when we were in our personal news segment, we got a lot of stories to go, and we're going to go ahead and kick it off with this one. Nick Leghorn over at The Truth About Guns reports that Remington has pulled all information about the R51 handgun released this past winter just before SHOT Show off of its website. On a personal note, I really wanted to like that gun. I was concerned when there were no examples available to fire at Media Day at the range when we were there. And when I actually handled the thing at the Remington booth, they had some, of course, non-working examples. The feel of it, again, I loved the looks, but it was really hard to get the grip safety to work right, and to get they had one with a laser on it, and it was really hard to get that laser to actuate when I wanted it to. But those were, I thought, things that could have been fixed, but it looks like if Remington's pulled and I went to Remington.com, and they have really pulled almost everything about the R51 off that website. I hope it's not going away, but if it is, it's from what I heard, man, it had some serious reliability issues. Any comments about it? Rob? You never did get any.
I heard the same. I didn't feel as warm toward it as you did. I was just encouraged. Hey, we've got another gun. Something besides the usual Tupperware. Great. Let's see if they'll work it out. And it looks like they gave up before they fixed it.
Well, hopefully they haven't given up completely. Hopefully they've just gone back to the drawing board and are making some adjustments and just decided that they would quit holding it out there in wait and will actually reintroduce it at SHOT Show next year or something.
There is a point. It must be embarrassing to promote something when you can't deliver it. Mm-hmm. So I can understand them wanting to pull it.
Vaporware.
Yes.
But I'll give them credit on this. At least they didn't do the unicorn. I mean, Keltec puts out some amazing looking stuff. It's just, can you ever get a hold of it?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, they're notorious for that.
So, let's see, Rob, I think you got the next story. It's right in your neighborhood.
I do, and I wish it was good news from California. It's not. California Governor Brown signed a bill into law banning single-shot handguns. This is really an anti-gun solution in search of a problem. Single-shot firearms aren't used in crimes, nor are firearms that have been converted from single-shot back to normal semi-automatic operation. That's not what the gangbangers are grabbing. So why write and pass such a law now? This was a must-pass bill for an anti-gun Democratic legislator. Those legislators are eager to secure campaign funding. Money talks in the Golden State, particularly anti-gun campaign donations.
You know, Rob, I wonder if all the people who shoo joining the NRA, like hunters and the like, are going to reconsider that opinion now that they can't fire their Thompson Center Encores and the like anymore.
Boy, I hope.
I
I
hope
hope.
so. Hope so wakes up some people who've been sitting on the sidelines.
Well,
Yeah, why are there 90 million gun owners and only 4 or 5 million NRA members? Shame on somebody.
Right.
What was the reasoning for this?
In theory, Jeff, you can take a Gen 4 Glock that isn't on California's approved list. Now, of course, law enforcement can get it. Civilians are not allowed to touch it because it's a dangerous gun.
Mm.
You can convert it to a single shot, extend the barrel, bring it into the state, reconvert it, and holster a gun that's been made in the last, 10 years.
Okay.
A big problem, not.
Right. Well, I'm thinking about my XP100 and my Thompson Center collection. That's ridiculous. That's just crazy.
Yep. It doesn't make sense other than in a political sense.
Mm-hmm. Closing another loophole.
That no one else is walking through.
Right. Well, it's a loophole, though. Loopholes need to be closed. Close the loopholes.
It's a loophole.
Okay.
I didn't write up a full story on it, but our governor is now calling for a ban on 50 caliber BMG guns in Illinois to stop crime.
Yeah, well, those liquor store robberies with the 50 BMGs are really a problem.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, that's. I'm going to
Yeah,
carry my
anybody-
Barrett down and take down the 7-Eleven with it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Gary,
well, the gangbangers really love those $1,200, $1,500 to $5,000 guns. That's what they're into,
Yeah.
Do they make a gold-plated Barrett?
Well, and this, the reason this brings me back to the reason they don't want to. The State Department has said they do not want to re-import all those M1s from Korea, is they don't want them falling into the wrong hands. And again, it goes back to, in my mind, I can't remember the last time somebody outside of a movie starring Clint Eastwood pointed an M1 at another person.
Get off my lawn.
Exactly. That's, I think, the last time anybody pointed an N1 at another person.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
All right. Well, the next one we got up is Jack in the Box restaurants all across the country continue to be easy hunting ground for criminals since the company requested the gun owners eat elsewhere. A Jack in the Box in Honolulu, Hawaii was robbed by a suspect carrying a rifle. Now, that's an unusual thing you don't see every day.
Think it was an M1? I doubt it.
A Houston, Texas Jack in the Box was also held up by 2 armed robbers in broad daylight, including another holdup in Tennessee where 2 people were shot in some of the latest Jack in the Box robberies. Brian, and I'm going to say this is Luscombe, I hope I'm correct on that, the vice president of Jack in the Box said, creating a warm and inviting environment for all our guests and employees is a top priority for Jack in the Box. The presence of guns inside a restaurant could create an uncomfortable situation for our guests and employees and lead to unintended consequences. That was his comment.
Well, I would say, I wonder how comfortable it is for them to be taken down by armed robbers. That's a very uncomfortable, I would think.
Consequence for him.
There you go, exactly. If you decide as a business, because I'm a firm believer that business owners have the right to make decisions regarding their own business. And unfortunately, by both federal and state law, we don't allow them to do that oftentimes. But sometimes you're better off just to be quiet about it, whatever it is you do, rather than making a national scene about it. If you post a sign in your door that says, guns aren't welcome, and it's a legal sign, then I'm going to go with your decision and maybe not be there, not eat there. But I don't know about this national trend lately to get out in front of the public and say, Target is no longer going to like you if you come in and have guns. Jack in the Box is no longer going to like you if you have guns. And then we start seeing incidents happen.
Well, I have, because I don't know. I'm wondering if we do see a lot now that the Targets and a matter of fact, I think our next story is about that, but the Jack in the Boxes but I'm wondering, I would like to know if this is a new trend, or if you got to believe with all the Jack in the Boxes and Targets, there had to be crime there before they asked.
Yeah, so just being reported more.
Yeah.
My feeling across the board too. Sometimes this stuff, it's easy to blow it out of proportion, particularly for us as a group,
right?
Because we're very focused on a particular subject,
right?
Guns and handling guns and so forth and so on. Does the rest of the public see it as something like that? Well, look at all this news about target violence now that wasn't there before. Does the general public see it, or are they just, it's pretty much just numb or apathetic or not noticing it? Just like sometimes a car can drive down the street 1,000 times and you buy one, you see every other one that's just like yours you never saw before. I wonder if we center on that, but there really isn't more crime than there was before at any of these big businesses. It seems to me that may be the case.
I don't know. Yeah. I would love to see if there is a direct correlation. I'd love to bring it out and point it out.
Rob, Gary, that's a great point, but it does. If it's correct or not, the point is these companies are allowing the negative attention to be drawn to them. The negative attention from gun owners who are now mad, and everybody else who now thinks that there's all this crime that's just appeared because it is now just appearing in the press. So
they open
either way, it's against them. Sorry, Jeff, go.
Yeah, they open themselves up to it. That's that by making their statements, telling us that we weren't welcome. They open themselves up to us highlighting their crime problems.
Right, but that's no different, I don't think. If I go back 20 or 30 years even, because I remember, and some of you may remember, when United Stores was a large outdoor retail chain, and they used to sponsor parades, and back in the Mountain Man days, craze. You remember the Jeremiah Johnson movie and stuff like that? Furs were a big thing, and then they had some pressure to not have furs there, and they changed their store policy. And of course, we had the A&E and the Duck Dynasty thing just recently. I think small groups of people affect substantially larger turnouts than they should on both sides of the issue. Not just our side, the other side as well, on multiple issues. I wonder if it's really any worse than it was before, or if just because of we'll call it a slow news day, but the massive amount of news channels and the limited number of actual good stories, if this is just a trend in everyday life that we're seeing because of our generation's technology today, or if the problem really is directly related to a change in policy. My point is, regardless, I think if you just shut your mouth about it and stick a sign up on your door, you wouldn't get the national attention, good, bad, or otherwise.
Right, exactly. And we know that the mass murderer at the movie theater in Colorado happened to show up at one that was listed as a gun-free zone. Let's chalk that story up to another Bloomberg success story. Rob, you got any more Bloomberg success stories?
Oh, there's an epidemic of gun-free zones that are broken across the country. Target department stores, which you just mentioned, Gary, have been targeted by thieves now that concealed carriers are not welcome. A Target customer was robbed at gunpoint by several armed thieves in the parking lot at a Georgia Target store. In another Georgia Target, a woman was severely beaten and her car stolen from the store's parking garage. Now, the United States is a big place. All the way on the West Coast, a Target security guard approached a man for shoplifting in an Oregon store. The thief pointed his gun at the security guard and fled. As you say, large numbers, it would take us a year to figure out whether these are statistical variations, but this is interesting. Target's interim CEO, John Mulligan, said, "Bringing firearms to Target creates an environment that is at odds with the family-friendly shopping and work experience we strive to create." Close quote.
Well, one thing I would like to specifically say about Target, and I haven't been on the air. I wasn't on the air when the Target story initially broke. That was on a midweek show. You guys talked about it. And one thing, it sounds to me, when they initially said, please don't bring your guns to Target, we're not, however, going to ban them. We're not saying you can't. We're just asking you not to. Couple things. Number one, and we're going to be seeing this. We've got an email coming up later in the show that does this. To me, that means a ban, but I know a lot of concealed carriers are saying, look, it's concealed. They don't know. I'm not going to alter, what I'm doing, because unless they put up the sign that legally keeps me out, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
And I'm open carry, and I have no problem going into our Target here, carrying my sidearm, none whatsoever. And I've never had anybody in Target, even recently, even within the last couple of weeks, ever say anything to me or indicate anything to me.
I don't go there.
I like to compare this to give an analogy. If Target said, "Look, we respect your right to love anybody you want to, but our male customers, when you come into the store, please don't hold hands or kiss in our stores," would they be considered being anti-gay with that kind of a policy? I consider them respectfully requesting that I not bring guns into their store to be an insult to me and all of us, and so I don't bring myself into their stores anymore.
I don't either. I have to drive. If I were to go to Target, I have to drive right past a Walmart to get there. So,
and I'm going to take the other side of that issue. We talked about Buffalo Wild Wings before too, a couple weeks back. Remember?
Oh,
I think a business has a right.
Oh, they have a right, but they don't have a right to my business.
Right, and that's okay. But to defend the business, we're an open carry store. I regularly invite our customers, in fact, if you're trying on holsters or something like that, to bring your piece with you, unload it or unchamber around and fit the different holsters till you find what you want. It's way easier that way than guessing whether or not it's going to fit your pistol. But I think that a business owner does have that right. Now, and that's the other side. You have the right to shop with them or not. But I'm not going to, on a personal basis, disrespect a business because they make a decision that I might not be comfortable with, because I still think the business, first and foremost, it's their business, and they should have the right to make the decisions that they feel are appropriate. The sad part of that is
you're ignoring their request, Gary.
Yes, correct. I am, as a matter of fact. And I don't have any problem with that either. I think that some of these businesses, like much of what's happening, there's such a small segment of the politically correct crowd that for some reason or another, either with the gay rights issue or the women and abortion issue or the handgun issue, they're really, when you think about the numbers, a very tiny group. It's amazing how much influence, sadly, they have in our politically correct world. But it's there nonetheless, and we have to deal with it. And some of it, I think, honestly, is brought on by ourselves, like that Texas group that walked, up and down the street making a big thing, and then they went into the Walmart making a big thing, carrying AK-47s and AR-15s as an open carry kind of a thing. It's sometimes we don't work as well with the other side as we could as well. Does that make sense? Maybe
sort
not.
of, but no.
Okay.
I disagree
It
with you on a
does
lot
to
of
me.
levels on it, but
It's all right. You're allowed. I'm going to like you anyway.
We are running really late on break, though. We do need to step off to break, and we got a lot of news left to go. So hang on, everybody. Right back right after this.
I'm going to bail, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
Thanks.
for joining us, Jeff.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Always fun, but I've got to go get my dinner. So,
Okay. Can you do me one favor before you leave, Jeff?
sure.
Can you say hi to my wife, Shelley, for me, please? Just
Hi, Shelly.
there you go. Shelley just texted me, said she's watching us up in Minneapolis, so thought somebody ought to say hi to her.
There you go. Shout out to Shelly. That's it.
Thanks for joining us,
Jeff,
Jeff.
if you've got one of your WorldNet Daily articles that you want to talk about, you're always welcome to bring it onto the show.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, Rob. And
Talk to you
I'm
later.
out every Friday morning with those, so if you see something that really trips your trigger, give me a shout.
Okay.
Oh, we're going to bug you incessantly. We're going to... Believe me, you will be asked on a lot now that you said that.
All right, guys. Take care. We'll talk to you later.
You
Thanks,
too.
Jeff.
See ya. Okay. I need a bio break. I'll be right back.
Okay.
A bio break?
I need to go to the bathroom, man.
Oh,
Biological.
a bio break. That's the first time I ever heard that. I'm going to go wait on my customer.
You gonna leave me too, Rob?
Hey, now, my wife is so left eye dominant, Gary,
Yes.
that she finds it easier to shoot left-handed.
Uh-huh.
So all of the firearms that she likes, I've had to chase up left-handed holsters for them.
All the majors, you don't have a problem with that, though, right?
I had one guy make up a custom left-handed for the taper-barreled Ruger Mark II, but you know how hard is that? So
Yeah.
no, the 1911 is really easy to find a left-handed.
That's my usual, and that's what I bought because I have two of them, at least two, for class use. So
Now she's got one in 9, and that's when people decide they want to step up from 22.
yeah,
That's what I'll start them with, just because it absorbs so much of the recoil, and it's got pretty good natural point of aim. It's great to give them easy success right there.
yeah. My girlfriend went from 22, and then tried a bunch of different guns we have. We have a 9 and 45 and a 40, and really like shooting 38 special out of a revolver.
Sweet.
So that's what I got her. Christmas presents.
Yeah,
And-
it's what they fall in love with. Don't try and fix that, right?
Right. Yeah. I had my only failed student ever in the concealed carry classes. So this year, was this guy's wife. He bought her a little 380, and she hadn't done a lot of shooting. I think she had done some 22 outside, and the inside, the loudness of everything, and the recoil.
Yes. Yep.
It was just all bad, and she was just very. I mean,
Right.
she was upset, and we're still. I don't leave my students in the lurch after class, so we're still working with her and trying to figure a way to ease her up to that. And I
Right.
think it's going to be. I think it's going to be trade in time for that gun. Really, the 9 would be definitely a better option.
Right. Well, and you know, very few of us get a perfect place to shoot, which is outside in
Right.
great weather. Sometimes you got to make what you can out of what you have. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see this next story? My girlfriend
Yeah.
sent me this one, and she said, it's like the Wild West, 2 robbers on a train. And I had to laugh because that's what they keep telling us is going to happen if we have concealed carry. Is it'd be like the Wild West.
Hey, so mention that, man. That's a great hook.
Somehow I'm going to work it in. I've been thinking about it for a while. But.
Well, let's go ahead and continue on with the news. Gary, you got first one, so why don't you go ahead and bring us back?
Everybody's back? We're ready?
Gary Harpster is helping a customer out. I'll cover for him when if he's not back when his turn comes.
In 5. And we're back, continuing our news segment here on the Polite Society podcast. I've got the next one. Police are searching for 2 suspects who robbed a Chicago Transit Authority train at gunpoint. In case you forgot, public transit in Illinois is a no-carry zone. The latest robberies occurred around 4 in the afternoon on the Orange Line train between Halstead and Roosevelt. This is a train that's typically used by tourists who fly into Chicago's Midway Airport. The robbers boarded the train and announced an armed robbery. They robbed several people of an iPad, 2 laptops, an iPhone, bank cards, and $105 in cash. The thieves fled when the train arrived at the Roosevelt station. The CTA did not make a statement other than to say that it's a police matter. I'll call it another gun-free zone not working in Chicago. And it brings to mind something my girlfriend mentioned when she sent me this story. Sounded like the Wild West, 2 robbers on a train. And I laughed because I told her that's what the politicians keep telling us is what'll happen when we get concealed carry is it'll be like the Wild West. And the fact is, it's the gun-free zones that are the Wild West.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, and that does absolutely perfectly put that in perspective. I mean, would you see that? Trying to think of another city that has trains like that.
Well, New York subways, crime used to be pretty severe.
Yeah. But yeah, it just
BART trains in San Francisco.
Yet again, you're looking at a pretty much gun-free zone unless you happen to be there from a free area of the state that does issue licenses. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. The next story is, here's a store that should know about self-defense and about customer service. Absolute Outdoors of New Kent, Virginia, has a large sign in their front window that says, "No loaded guns." Ed Levine from the Virginia Citizens Defense League asked the store how the policy was enforced. The store's owner had this shockingly rude answer: "You need to add to your list of titles, loser, idiot, in desperate need of a life, lifelong member of the..." We'll let you go to the show notes if you want to see that. "Just plain stupid. Now that better describes you. I'm usually there every day, so you should drop by and see me, little man." Now, most gun stores simply ask you to keep your loaded firearm holstered, but not Absolute Outdoors in New Kent, Virginia. I couldn't believe it when I seen the email that was sent to the store owner. It was a little bit. Basically, he said, "I just want you to confirm this before I let our membership know it." And then he gets it back, and it was a little strongly worded, the email that was originally sent, but the reply, man, there's no call for that.
Paul, I think this is why you don't type emails when you're drunk.
Yes. It could very well be.
Because they're forever. The stupid is strong and forever.
Yes. Well, and also the next story, we have another advocate for gun-free zones in Missouri. Missouri Governor Jay Nixon vetoed legislation that allowed specially trained teachers to carry concealed guns on school grounds. Nixon said armed teachers jeopardize safety. The Democratic governor waited until the legislative session closed before he issued his veto. Now the Republican-led legislature has to wait until September session to attempt an override. You know, if trained teachers jeopardize students, how do the Missouri Capitol Police jeopardize the safety of the governors and the legislators? I mean, you would think that would be the case because these teachers would have had to have a significant amount of training, about as much as the Capitol Police.
When we've talked to Jim Irvine and Joe Khalil, who have been training school staff, I'm going to say the teachers are actually better at it than most law enforcement for a very simple reason. Law enforcement has to be a jack of many, many trades, if not all trades. With, you know, how many million laws do they have to enforce? They're doing everything from mental health to, you know, everything. I mean, they call the cops on everything. And the teachers are focused on one thing and one thing only. The next, oh, you want to, yeah? What do you think?
Well, I just got to be, how do I put this? Anybody, and I do mean anybody, can be taught the fundamentals of safely handling a firearm. And unless you are paralyzed from the neck down, or have a mental disability, I believe that any adult can be taught to safely and ethically handle firearms. And this is just to say teachers are too focused on teaching. No, I'm sorry, I don't buy it. No more than truck drivers are focused on driving, or no more than a bank teller is focused on banking. No, I'm not buying it. So, who's got the next one?
I do. We don't often think of a county as being a gun-free zone, but I'm on the West Coast. I live in exactly such a county. San Joaquin County, California, has pretty similar gun restrictions to what I have, with only a few hundred carry permits in the entire county. Those of us who have to live in gun-free California counties are told that the police will be there to protect us. There's an important difference between protecting yourself and having to wait for the police. And this last week, unfortunately, the difference really mattered. 3 armed gunmen tried to rob a bank in San Joaquin County, and the cops were literally there when the bad guys were walking into the bank. A deputy spotted the robbery in progress, but he was outside the bank, and the citizens inside the bank were unarmed. The robbers took 3 hostages. 2 of the hostages were very badly injured as the robbers tried to escape, and 1 of the hostages was killed by gunfire. At this point, it's not clear who actually shot the 3rd hostage. At best, the police will be there in minutes, and sometimes seconds are the difference between life and death.
Yeah, this robbery, I think, took place in Stockton, and the robbers were using AK pistols. More failure of gun control, just like Chicago.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm not missing my guess, aren't AK pistols illegal in California? This couldn't have happened there.
Obviously, this whole news story was a fantasy, right? Couldn't happen here.
Yeah, and if the pictures of the AK pistol I seen, that had to happen in Arizona because this thing looked like it had a 30-round magazine. They don't allow those in California.
That's right. Oh, so obviously this whole story, it's really lucky that for the 3 DID people that this is all a fantasy.
Sorry to laugh.
A fake story.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's just amazing. It's just.
Yeah, I get it. Well, like you said, Gary, just more failure of gun control.
I think we need more gun control.
Keep making the gun to be a villain instead of the villain being the villain.
Good point.
So let's call them the straights, can't differentiate between a good guy with a gun and a bad guy with a gun. They think everybody with a gun is a bad guy.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Now, we reported on this story a few episodes ago, but the story of Shaneen Allen goes on. Shaneen drove into New Jersey, where she was stopped by a policeman for a lane change. Unfortunately, she was carrying a firearm, like an honest citizen, she informed the New Jersey officer who stopped her. She was arrested since there's no reciprocity between New Jersey and Pennsylvania, where Shaneen was licensed. Shaneen, a single mom with 2 children and 2 jobs. She works late and was robbed twice this year. She took her firearm safety class and had her concealed carry license for only a few weeks. Think about it for a moment. This young woman drove a car that's far more powerful than any handgun. She uses a driver's license issued by Pennsylvania and recognized all across the country, and even recognized in New Jersey. She is also a recognized U.S. citizen from a birth certificate issued in another town. As I said, Allen had a license to carry a concealed weapon issued in Pennsylvania. That licensing process is far more rigorous than getting her driver's license or her citizenship papers, particularly for a concealed carry license from Philadelphia, where Allen lives. New Jersey ignores the license and branded her a criminal. I don't know if you remember speed traps in the South and Southwest, where small towns would use law enforcement to find and imprison strangers. This is the same miscarriage of justice inflicted on an innocent woman. Allen faces a felony weapons possession charge and faces 3 years in a New Jersey prison. The single mom was already jailed for 46 days before she could make bail. She was about to accept a plea deal and serve the 3 years when she got a good lawyer. This is bigotry against honest gun owners. Show me the victim if she's a criminal. There is a defense fund on Facebook. I hope you will call the National Rifle Association and Gun Owners America asking them to help her. You are a member, aren't you?
All right.
Show of hands. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to really drive something home here. Number one, of course, is know before you go. Handgunlaw.us. Gary Slider puts together an amazing website, awfully accurate, and check before you cross state lines. Everybody, please. But I want to also point out something that Gary just said in that story. If she's a criminal, who is the victim? I can't think of a single person that was hurt by her protecting herself.
Yep.
So that's my commentary.
Later on, as the year progresses, if you hear me fighting for national registration and one national gun carry license, well, just keep this story in mind. Okay, that's all I'm saying about it right now. That's all I'm going to say right now.
I would say registration, you're out of your frigging mind. National reciprocity, we can talk. We got one more story left, and
we got 2.
Oh, we got 2. I'm sorry. Well,
we got Detroit too.
I promise we're not going to come to blows before the show's done. We won't, really. Gary and I are really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
What are we talking about? I missed it. All right.
I baited him.
Read on.
I baited him. It was my fault.
No, I'm not dating you. You're far too ugly for me. The next story, anti-gun groups in Nevada want to put an initiative on the ballot to legislate universal firearms background checks. The Las Vegas Review-Journal came out against the measure in an editorial. They said the gun control proponents must, quote, overcome the strongest argument against expanded background checks, the fact that determined lawbreakers who want a gun will not respect the laws written to disarm them, unquote. The editorial then went on to cite the many examples of criminals either avoiding or passing background checks. Wow.
You know, that is news that a major newspaper came out with a pro-civil rights stance. Good for them.
Well, you would have to figure that if any state it was going to be Nevada. Maybe Arizona might have been. But yeah, Nevada's fairly gun-friendly. So.
Yep.
Fairly gun-friendly.
No, they're not number one on my list
No.
of states I'd like to live in, but
No.
their gun laws are okay.
Yeah, they get out of Clark County, I think.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's like so many places. You know, Minnesota, when you get rural, is actually the sheriffs are pretty good about it. They hunt, they understand that kind of thing. But really, the power in the decision making is made in Hennepin and Ramsey counties, and they're always anti-gun everything. So there you go. Well, the next story takes us to Detroit, of all cities, if we could still claim that Detroit is a city. Detroit has a decreasing tax base, as most of you are aware of, huge municipal debt. I just saw a story this week, a wonderful story on how many homes they've got to tear down in Detroit. The abandoned housing in Detroit and the ruins are no longer something that the police can even patrol. But despite those tough conditions, robberies are down 37%, break-ins are down 22%, and there have been 30% fewer carjackings. It isn't that the Detroit economy is suddenly so much better. What's changed is that Detroit citizens are harder targets for criminals now. The police chief, James Craig, said criminals are getting the message that good Detroiters are armed and will use their weapon. I don't want to take away from the good work that our investigators are doing, but I think part of the drop in crime, and robberies in particular, is because criminals are thinking twice that citizens could be armed. My comment on that is great quote. Nice to see him bring that to the national attention, and good job to the legal gun owners of the city of Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
Hoorah! Keep it up.
Amen.
Yeah, I want to comment as well. You guys remember this would have been about April, May. There was a story came out that for the first quarter, murders were way down in Chicago. Holy cow! There was almost no murders in Chicago compared to, lowest level since the 50s. And then winter ended, and Chicago went back to being Chicago. Well, what encourages me about this is we are well into summertime. If there was going to be a spike, if there was going to be returning to normal in Detroit, which is just about the same, there isn't a whole lot of climate difference between Chicago and Detroit. If there was going to be a huge jump in crime, it would have happened by now. This means in my mind, this means that specifically this police chief is making a difference. That his encouragement of people to arm themselves really is making a difference.
And a difference in sharp contrast to Chicago.
Oh, most
Sure.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we got our gun quote. This week's quote comes from Lysander Spooner, and it's actually not a gun quote, but yeah. He says, "A man is no less a slave because he is allowed to choose a new master once in a term of 4 years." That's interesting. That's our news segment, everybody. We're going to be right back with, podcast listeners, you get to hear the interviews we did with Jeff Knox and the short one we did with Shelley Sorensen, and then we'll be back with DGUs after that. Hang on, everybody. Right back right after this.
For those of you watching on YouTube, no break for you. Just suck it up. Watch us. God, I love this stuff, man. Seriously.
Just suck it up, YouTube viewers.
Yeah, all three of you.
Says the guy who runs out the break every segment.
Every segment. Says the one guy who's also working at the same time he's doing it.
I'm working.
Yeah, it just proves to my wife how good a multitasker I am.
Yeah, she knows the truth.
Yeah.
Sadly, you are so right.
Yeah, right. You can lie to yourself, and you might believe it. But your wife, nah, she knows.
Speaker's in the store now, Rob. He hears it all.
Hey, confession time. It's true about me as well.
Which part?
Unfortunately, my wife is a better mirror than the one hanging on the wall.
Hey, mine too.
Yeah. Yep.
Do we want to go ahead and take off into DGUs, and I'll just take this first one?
Go, man. It's between you and Gary. If you'll feel cheated,
No,
you have to live with him.
I wrote a couple. I'm very pleased with what I got, so I'm fine.
All right. Here we go, coming back in 5. Hey, and welcome back to our DGU segment. First one up, it's good to have friends with guns, even if they're strangers. Donald Sacco was at Orange County, Florida bus stop. That is where he was attacked and robbed by Thomas Thorpe. Thorpe stabbed Sacco in the hand, leg, and abdomen. A passing motorist saw the attack and stopped his car. The motorist drew his firearm and held Thorpe at gunpoint while the other witnesses helped wounded Sacco. Thorpe was taken into custody by deputies and charged with attempted first-degree murder, aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, robbery, and carrying a concealed weapon. The victim was transported to the hospital in stable condition. Wow, that's great.
Isn't that one of the toughest calls?
Yeah, but something I think I would like to think I would do. If I seen somebody being stabbed like that, I'd like to think I'd stop and help.
You read about this occasionally. I remember a story. A recently discharged Marine was driving down the road and saw a woman, it was in the winter, being beaten and knocked to the ground, and he just stopped the attack immediately. But as they say about domestic disputes or robbery, wow, that's the one that is another aspect where I so respect police. They wade into the middle and have to stop it and then sort it out. That's a hard thing to know when you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, well, Rob, I think you got the next one, right?
I do, and there's a wry sense of humor to this. With friends like this, it's time to change occupations. A homeowner in a North Houston suburb had to go for his shotgun when 3 armed men broke into his home. One of the thieves was close enough to grab the shotgun, and the 2 wrestled for control of it. That's when the thief accidentally fired the handgun he was holding and shot another of the thieves. Yep. That left a mark. The wounded thief was captured by deputies and transported to the hospital. Unfortunately, the 2 other thieves escaped. I wish, now Gary, you can talk about this, and I wish Rachel was here. Distance, as I understand it, is your friend in a fight. I'm not much of a long gun guy. Is a shotgun the tool you want or the tool you have to make do with?
For home defense?
Yeah.
Rob, as they say, your handgun is to help you fight to your long gun. Handgun is infantry, long guns are artillery.
Okay.
You should be if someone breaks into your house, don't go hunting in your house with your handgun. Bunker in, find a safe place, get on the phone.
There you go.
Keep the long gun pointed at the door, and don't let them get close enough to get a hold of your long gun. Absolutely. You are right there, sir.
Yeah. I wish I could remember her exact answer, but a long time ago. And we'll have to add this to the next section of Kathy Jackson's Corner Cat Quick Tips when we record some more here in a few weeks. But I asked her once, and maybe it was even a long form interview, but I asked her once. We were killing old gun sayings, and one of them was, well, the handgun is for fighting to get to your long gun. And basically what she said was the handgun is for fighting for you to escape. You use what you got, and if you're not carrying your long gun, that you use your handgun to fight. So anyway, we got our next story coming up here as soon as I scroll past the picture in my show notes. This article is emailed into Guns Save Lives. A woman in Gainesville, Texas, confronted a man who wandered into her yard. She thought the intruder was high on drugs because of the way he acted when she repeatedly asked him to leave. At that point, the intruder threw his hat on the ground and came at her. The homeowner's 13-year-old boy had his Ruger 1022 in hand, but did not have to fire a shot. The intruder turned and ran at the sight of the firearm. The homeowner's 15-year-old daughter called 911, but it took the policeman an additional 8 minutes to arrive. The incident is typical of most defensive gun uses. You only call the police after the threat is apparent. The sight of a firearm will be enough to stop most attackers. The police arrive to take a report after the event is long over. Long guns are better than nothing, and the 1022, I don't care if it's loaded with 22 short, man. I don't want to get shot with anything.
Exactly.
Amen to that.
Paul, one of the few things you and I agree on right from the get-go.
There you go. So good on the young man for having a 1022 right there and bringing it to defense. And thank goodness he didn't have to fire a shot.
Hopefully most of our listeners know that that's actually the preferred assassin weapon, It's the 22. The 22 pistol was the first assassin weapon.
Okay.
Put it in the back of the head. World War II, beginning of World War II, British counterintelligence came up with the idea of a single-shot 22 as a perfect assassin pistol. You put it in the back of the head like this and make the shot. The bullet bounces around inside the skull instead of going all the way through. The chance of missing or bouncing off at something and going out. The 22 handgun, perfect assassin's pistol.
Well, I don't think many of our listeners are assassins, though.
History.
All right. Gary Doherty, I think you got the next one, man.
Excuse me. 2 teenagers, a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old, tried to steal Victoria Davidson's car last month while she was in it. I want the keys, car, everything, commanded one of the teens. Davidson hesitated, prompting one teen to tell the other, go get the cannon, a reference to his gun. But Davidson had a cannon of her own and pulled it out of her gym bag. She shot the 15-year-old. I shot the one that was in front of me. The one in back of me, he said a curse word, and then he looked at his friend, and then he ran off while his friend was on the ground. Police are investigating what may be dozens of carjackings and robberies tied to the teens. The wounded 15-year-old is now connected to a violent shooting where he shot a 43-year-old man in the face following an attempted carjacking. Now, guys, I'm sorry, but I am a trainer, and I tend to see teaching moments. She says in her interview that she had the gun in the gym bag and had struggled with the zipper to get the bag open and get the gun out. Another reason to, if at all possible, carry on your person, on your body. Holsters are faster.
Yeah, I would. And Kathy, I hate, here we go again, Kathy Jackson, but when she did her Corner Cat class here last year, if you need to carry in a purse, there are purses designed specifically for it that are amazingly fast. There are, if you can't carry, this sounded like a gym type situation, there are fanny packs specifically designed to be holsters that are supremely fast. There are a lot of ways, if you can't directly carry on your body to carry, you should never be struggling with a zipper, ever, ever, ever. I agree with Gary Doherty on this one wholeheartedly. If you can, of course, carry on your body, it's the fastest.
Right.
I agree. And there are so many. Sorry, Rob, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Gary.
Well, there are so many nice bags, that are designed for that too. We carry like about 4 different kinds of purse-type, man-type bags that the police use as tactical bags as well, but look perfectly nice walking around the fairgrounds, that are actually designed to handle the pistol so that you've got a quick access to it and quick release of the pistol. So if you do have to carry one and you're serious about doing it, look into your local retailer for a tactical handbag. Some of them, I've got women customers who use them just like everyday purses. That's what they carry, and you couldn't tell the difference between them.
Listeners, I would say your first best option, though, get a hold of Jason Christensen over at Concealment Solutions. Yes, they sponsor the show, but they do make the best, absolutely, no kidding, most comfortable holsters in the world. And he can find one that you can work on your body to make it comfortable. So, and I don't know of a gun he won't make a holster for. So
cool.
Before we go on, I'm just speculating.
Yep.
But if we were to ask Victoria Davidson right now whether she was satisfied with her performance, she'd go, "I survived, but wow, those were some really long seconds fumbling with a zipper."
Mm-hmm. Yep, sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I bet she'd agree that she's looking for holsters.
I would think so, yeah.
All right, next up, we are at the Grand Hyatt Hotel on Riverwalk in San Antonio. Been there, love the place. San Antonio, Texas. A guest there at the Grand Hotel had to use deadly force to defend himself and a woman when a mentally ill man threatened and then charged the pair. Torres, I'm not sure if that's her first or last name, went to the 6th floor of the hotel at 1 p.m. and started breaking lights in the hallway, according to the police. He started to bang on a door, and when a witness opened it, Torres said he was looking for someone to kill. Also a quote from the police. The witness slammed the door, so Torres banged on another one, police said. The man inside of that room waited a moment to open the door, and when he did, Torres charged in at him. The hotel guest drew a concealed handgun, fired one shot, and struck Torres in the chest, stopping him just outside of the door. No charges have been filed or are currently expected in this case. The Torres family says the man was suffering from an unidentified mental illness. Another teaching moment, I'm suspecting.
I'm sorry, but I am a trainer. That's what I do. I worry about people's safety, and if a stranger is pounding on your door, don't open it.
Or at least chain it.
Yeah, even the chain, man.
Even the chain.
Even the chain can be, believe me, one good
all right.
shoulder.
Don't open it.
And I would like to, they say the man was, this is going to sound really crass, but I'm allowed to, it's my show. The family says the man was suffering from an unidentified mental illness. I wonder if a white powdery substance might have contributed, or maybe, alcohol might have contributed to that mental illness, because that doesn't sound, I don't care if you've got a mental illness, you don't go knocking on a door when somebody answers, I'm looking for somebody to kill. That's, there's, I think, something else involved.
Bath salts, something.
Yes.
I like bath salts. I'm a bath salt.
Oh, don't do it.
I really did not need to know that.
There's a rabbit hole. I'm sorry.
All right, fair enough. I'm a Mr. Bubble kind of guy.
All right. Yeah.
I
Two
have the
homeless
bubbles in my
Oregon
back are all
men.
natural. I have you know.
Hey, my tub's got a holster. I'm ready, big boy.
Wow.
Two homeless Oregon men that are not on the podcast thought someone reported them to the Bureau of Land Management as trespassers. So these two guys went to the man's home armed with a baseball bat and then took turns beating him. The beating really did some damage, caused extensive head, face, and back injuries. In an attempt to escape from the attack, the victim grabbed his shotgun and fired 2 rounds into the air. Now, this is the crazy part. The suspects fled and then called police to report that they'd been shot at. They were later arrested and charged with assault.
I guess that is the Joe Biden defense.
Joe Biden.
Shoot into the air.
Well, fortunately, this one fell the correct way. In a prior incident, there was a case where a guy fired a couple shots into the air, and the police did arrest the victim, who thought he had people breaking into his house and fired shotgun into the air. So,
I assume it's a negligent discharge charge?
No, it was endangering.
Or reckless endangerment?
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
Okay.
I can look it up. I don't remember. It was quite a while ago. It was right after he said it. It was the first case of it. Some guy fired a couple shots in the air, and the police came and arrested him. So.
Wow. Well, our next DGU, this one was sent in by Greg in Bremerton. I'm going to read this right off the NBCLosAngeles.com website. A market robber is believed to have accidentally killed his accomplice during a fight with the owner of the El Cerrito store they were robbing on Friday. The LAPD said that the owner of the 21-year-old man allegedly shot a 35-year-old man at the market at 11:15 a.m., according to police. Quote, there was an altercation with the store owner who tried to take the rifle away, LAPD officer Nernia Vargas said. The man who was shot was wielding a machete, police said. The men's names were not immediately released. The store owner was uninjured. Not technically a DGU because the store owner wasn't carrying a gun, but
a story, just an interesting story nonetheless.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's no fixing stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
I would say certainly a case of you get what you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have links to each of the news and defensive gun use articles at PoliteSocietyPodcast.com if you'd like to share them with a friend. I'm going to have you hang on, everybody. We're coming right back right after this. We got some emails to talk about, and we'll close the show up. Hang on, right back right after this.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, because I've got a couple comments that I want to make short.
Why don't you go ahead and let me save this, and we'll have you bring us back, and we'll do those. You'll have you bring us in.
Okay.
Is you Gary H?
Yes.
You know, the guy who likes bath salts. Just from now on, I want you to have that image in your mind, Rob.
It's okay. I've got some bleach over here. It's going to be tough.
Next thing you know, he's going to be saying he watches My Little Pony when he goes to bed at night.
Rob, that story was exactly 1 year ago, July 19th, 2013.
Wow.
Jeffrey Barton, 52-year-old Washington, charged with illegal aiming or discharging a firearm. Barton was arrested Monday for allegedly shooting a shotgun in the air to chase people he considered potential car thieves off his property. I did what Joe Biden told me to do, Barton told KOIN TV outside court Wednesday, where he pleaded not guilty. I went outside and fired my shotgun in the air.
Did you find a result of that? I mean, if that happened a year ago, what actually became of that story? Do you know?
No, I don't. Gary, I try and type really quiet so that it doesn't get picked up on this show. So there's that's the article link. I'll keep looking. Cool. I got to work next week, next Saturday, and Wednesday. But if I find more, I will give it to you, Paul. You guys can talk about it.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Ready
There
when
are
you
portions. Jump in.
What?
I'm gonna read that first email after we come back, and I'll make a couple comments. And
are.
then,
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, and then go ahead and make your comments, and then go into the email number 1.
Wonderful. Works for me. You ready?
Yep.
5. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Polite Society podcast. This is Gary Harpster. I'm going to just add a couple comments, and then we're going to get to our email section. The first is get some emails coming in from you guys maybe the next couple of weeks, see what you all think out there. Seems to me that we're seeing more and more stories of robberies, muggings, and that type of thing that used to only happen during the night hours. Do you notice the news that we're starting to see 11:15 in the morning, we're starting to see 1 o'clock in the afternoon, armed robbery of a grocery store or a convenience store? This is the kind of stuff we never used to see there. I mean, it would be like 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, that type of thing. What do you guys think? Are we seeing more of it, or is it just getting reported more?
I think we're seeing
Both.
more of it. I really do.
Both, because we've been scouring the news pretty consistently. You know, so the fact that it's happening more in the daytime, I think that's a real trend.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to find out what kind of social issues are behind that. Like, why all of a sudden, after 100 years of crimes happening at night, are we starting to see so many armed robbery type, burglary type things during the day? So,
Well, overall, we know crime is down.
Yeah,
so
right.
I think the criminals are getting more desperate, and desperation leads to less planning and less thinking about it. And I got my nerve right at this second; it's going to happen. So they're not thinking about, well, maybe I can get away better at night and things like that. So they're just going for it when they think about it.
More spur of the moment type stuff than there used to be.
Yeah.
Either that, or for lack of a better way of putting it, stupider criminals than we used to have. Is it possible to have a smart criminal versus a stupid criminal? But
Well, you know what though? This is gonna sound really bad, but look at our test scores of people graduating high school now compared to 30 years ago.
good
As
point.
a population, we may not be so brilliant.
That's a good point.
So
Good
criminals may have gotten dumber as well.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, for that comment, let's move on to the emails. First one is from Ken in Arizona. He says, I thought you'd like to know that Target's no guns allowed policy is actually working. I just bought a new cell phone and 2 new tablet computers and a few accessories to go along with them. And not once did I ever consider going into a Target to shop. Their policy worked. It kept me and my gun out. Apparently smarter people than I are making good decisions after all. So who says a gun-free zone doesn't work? Well written, Ken.
Yeah, amen. I emailed him back and said that basically my own experience. I didn't, I haven't spent that much money at stuff I could have bought at Target at any other place. But yeah, since they passed their what do you call it? Their preference I not come, I haven't, and I have spent my money elsewhere, just like Ken.
Yeah, and I vote with my dollars, and I really enjoy what used to be called the Monster Taco, which is now the Super Taco at Jack in the Box, and I'm really mad that I can't go there anymore because of their policies. So
Where do you live again?
my parents live in Texas.
No, is that where do you go? Where did you used to go to a Jack in the Box? Because
My parents live in Texas. I go down there.
okay. You do know that that's not real food, right? I mean,
No.
Jack in the Box.
Believe it or not, when I lived in San Diego, man, I loved Jack in the
Seriously,
Box.
People. There are real restaurants out there. I mean,
Well, yeah, they got In-N-Out Burger.
and is it Jack in the Box the one that has that-
Hey, Gary Harpster, you're talking to a truck driver about food.
What was I thinking? You're right.
Well,
Hey, I'm
Well,
not
but
much
weird.
different, though. For all the years on the road with FEMA, I mean, I've eaten more convenience store tuna fish sandwiches than you would like to count.
I'm
And
sorry.
with that said, by the way, Super America's tuna fish sandwiches.
And you're questioning my food choices. All right.
Good.
All right, now we're not. Now that we're done with the diners, drive-ins, and dives part of the show, Gary Doherty, I think you got the next email, man.
Here we go. We got a message from John Willett of the Bold Departure podcast. Hi, what's up? I was just listening to the episode with Russell Smith's proposal for firearms purchases. Frankly, moving to combine photo ID and the ability to purchase a firearm is a huge step in the wrong direction. I will add that we shouldn't generate proposals based on the worst states' laws. I have seen a proposal that makes a lot of sense. Rather than using the failed paradigm of relying on laws that prohibit activity, we utilize technology and an incentive for folks to conduct their own background check prior to a sale via a website that performs the same function as NICS does now. The website gives them a code that is good when combined with info from their existing ID for firearms purchases for a predetermined amount of time. The incentive is that the seller of the firearm would keep documentation of the sale with the code, and that would provide them legal immunity against criminal action related to the sale.
God damn, that's a good idea. Seriously.
There are other background check systems besides the NICS system. I just don't know what they're all called. Anybody know?
I don't either, but I gotta. John Willett. It's an interesting topic for discussion. I like the way he's laid it out.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the right.
Well-regulated militia. Glad you included that.
Being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Take that background check and stick it up somewhere it isn't pretty.
Great. So, in other words, we'll live with the suck everywhere until you find something perfect enough.
No, what I'm saying is, and I'm sorry, but I am up to your. If your state wants to do something, your state can do something. I am just. We need to be going back to the way it used to be, not going forward into more gun control efforts.
So how do you get there?
How do you get there? You repeal the rest of the Brady bill that hasn't already sunsetted. You go back to laws pre-1934. You get rid of the stuff that sucks and doesn't work. We need not to be creating new laws. We need to be repealing the piece of trash we got. That's how we're going to get our rights back. You don't create new law, you repeal it. I'm sorry.
To be continued on another show. That's when I'll throw my 2 cents in. We can discuss that just a little bit more. But anyway, to John Willett, outstanding, well written, worth thinking about. Thank you.
The Polite Society download app is out on Amazon.com for Android, and the iPhone app is in iTunes. It's called Podcast Box. Both are located by our old name, Politics and Guns. Hot links are in our show notes.
So please check out Kathy Jackson's Cornered Cat training classes. Go to corneredcat.com for the classes and details.
And take a look at the Shooters Club by Bob Marn and Ben Branham. For $75 a year, $625 a month, you get 24/7 access to some fantastic training and audio podcasts that you can't get anywhere else. Subscribing from the link in our show notes helps Bob and Ben, as well as helps us here at the Polite Society Podcast. So please, the Shooters Club. Thank you.
That does wrap up the episode. Until the midweek show, everybody.
Stay safe.
Why did I hear a whistle? Beware.
And we'll see you down the road.
ABN. conceal solutions. I think Paul left. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel his pain. It is frustrating.
Discussion is
I'm gonna
always
go. I'm gonna go have dinner. See you guys.
All right. Good night, Rob.
Night, Rob.
Differences of opinion are important.
That's true.
And all of our what's interesting about working in the business is that you will have diverse opinions. I mean, with all the gun owners that come in the store, with all the veterans that come in the store, the range of opinions from young vets to old vets, from young gun owners to old gun owners, you get the whole spectrum. And the interesting thing is the conversation. Nobody's going to come up with an absolute, positively the world's best solution. But you have to have the discussion going. And some of our listeners, when they join in the discussion, that's a good thing. We might not always agree, but as long as we're open and discussing it, that's a good thing. And today the world is, we know that as the future goes forward, the laws are going to be different. You can't go back. As much as we'd like to, we have to go forward. We have to work, try to get all sides. If there's one complaint that I would bake against, for example, the Obama administration versus many other administrations, Bill Clinton's, Reagan, some of the others in the past, is we seem so polarized these days, and I don't remember another time when, on a national basis, out to the states, there couldn't be a consensus. But between the Conservative Party and the Democratic Party now in Washington, it's not like they even want to sit down at the same table. And unfortunately, I think when it comes to the issue of gun laws, much is the same way. The two sides are so polarized that there isn't an easy solution until they're willing to sit down and discuss the issues from the gun control side, as well as from the Second Amendment side that I'm on. We need to be able to discuss issues like mental illness. We need to be able to discuss issues like interstate reciprocity, or a national program that, because it's a Bill of Rights issue, should there be a national program that goes along with that? Because I'm a states' rights guy. I would rather have a state control things within their own state. But there are certain national level things that maybe it makes sense to take a look at a national program, like James Willett was suggesting. At least have the discussion about it. My point of view.
Right. All right. Well, I will say goodnight. Thank you all for having me. And
I'm not sure if we're off YouTube or not.
I
think we're still live.
We're still live, but
all right. Good night, sir.
I'm not sure anybody's on. Let me check real quick here.
I'm not sure anybody else either.
YouTube. Polite.
I actually don't know how to do that, so.
Oh, he's back.
I'm sorry, I had to step outside for a minute.
He is back.
All right.
Rob left.
Okay.
He said to say goodnight. Gary was about to leave.
All right, I'm going to take us offline.